The audience could barely believe it when Barack Obama appeared unexpectedly on stage. An absolute silence took over the studio as Steve Harvey tried to comprehend the situation. Obama smiled, opened his mouth, and said something that made everyone hold their breath. What seemed like a common visit transformed into a message nobody would forget. The viewers leaned forward, trying to absorb every word. Steve Harvey was clearly stunned, his hands trembling slightly as he reacted to the unexpected. When Obama finished, applause and screams echoed, and the moment immediately entered the archives of historical television surprises. But let's rewind. 3 hours before the cameras went live, Steve Harvey sat in his dressing room staring at his reflection. The lights around the mirror buzzed softly. His makeup artist had just left. He was alone with his thoughts, and they weren't kind. The ratings had been slipping for 6 consecutive weeks. Network executives were circling like vultures. His agent had stopped returning calls promptly. The show that had been his empire, his legacy, was crumbling beneath him like sand between desperate fingers. He picked up his phone. 23 unread messages. He didn't open them. He already knew what they said. Concerned producers, worried sponsors, the slow funeral march of a career in decline. Outside his door, he could hear the crew prepping for tonight's episode. Another celebrity chef, another viral dance segment, another attempt to capture lightning in a bottle that had long since shattered. Now, if you're watching this and feeling that tension Steve felt, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Let me know in the comments what city you're watching from, because what happens next, you'll want to share with everyone you know. And trust me, this story is just getting started. The stage manager knocked twice. Sharp. Efficient. 15 minutes, Mr. Harvey. Steve stood, adjusted his suit. The purple one, his lucky color. Though luck had been a stranger lately, he walked down the corridor, past framed photographs of better times. Him with Oprah, him with Denzel, him before the world started forgetting his name. The studio audience was already seated. He could hear their chatter through the walls. They had no idea what kind of desperation walked among them, disguised as confidence. The warm-up comedian was finishing his set. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Artificial. Scheduled, purchased with the price of a free ticket. Steve took his position behind the curtain, the familiar rush of adrenaline mixed with something new, something colder. Fear dressed up as routine. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. The music hit. The lights blazed. He walked out smiling that smile he'd perfected over 30 years. The audience applauded because that's what audiences do. They were part of the machinery. And tonight, Steve was just another gear grinding toward obsolescence. Good evening, beautiful people. His voice boomed with practiced enthusiasm. We got an amazing show for you tonight. But he didn't feel amazing. He felt like a man standing on a cliff edge, wondering if anyone would notice when he finally slipped. The first segment went smoothly. The celebrity chef demonstrated some complicated dish that nobody watching at home would ever attempt. The audience oohed and ahed on cue. Steve cracked jokes. The teleprompter scrolled. Everything was normal. Everything was dying. Then Marcus, his longtime producer, appeared stage left. His face was ghost white. He was waving frantically, holding up his phone. Steve had been in television long enough to recognize crisis when it wore a headset and clipboard. He improvised a commercial break transition, something about checking out their sponsors, and the red lights blinked off. What? Steve's smile vanished the second the cameras died. Marcus grabbed his arm. His grip was too tight. You need to see this, now. They moved to the wings. Marcus thrust his phone forward. It was a text message from an unknown number. 7 words that made Steve's heart stop. I'm coming to your show tonight. Below it, a photo. Barack Obama, standing in what looked like a parking garage. The timestamp read 18 minutes ago. "This is a joke," Steve said, but his voice cracked. "Someone's messing with us." "I called his team," Marcus whispered. His eyes were wild. "They won't confirm or deny. Secret Service showed up at our back entrance 7 minutes ago. Steve, I think this is real." The studio felt suddenly smaller, hotter. Steve's mind raced through possibilities. A prank, a security threat, a publicity stunt. None of them made sense. Obama had been out of office for years. He did speaking tours. He wrote memoirs. He didn't randomly crash talk shows hosted by comedians whose careers were circling the drain. "We go back live in 90 seconds, Marcus said. "What do you want to do?" What did he want to do? Steve wanted to rewind 5 years. He wanted to make different choices. He wanted his ratings back. He wanted to matter again. But those weren't options on the menu. "We continue," Steve said. "Normal show. If he shows up, we handle it." But nothing about this was normal. And Steve Harvey had stopped knowing how to handle anything 6 months ago, when his wife had stopped looking at him the same way, when his kids had started checking on him like he was fragile, when the mirror had started showing him someone he didn't recognize. The red lights blinked back on. Steve returned to his mark. The audience welcomed him back with applause. They had no idea a bomb was ticking backstage. He introduced the next segment, a viral video compilation. People doing stupid things for internet points. The audience laughed. Steve laughed. Everyone was pretending everything was fine. Then the side door opened. At first, nobody noticed. The video was playing. Some teenager was attempting a backflip off a roof. The audience was focused on the screens. But Steve saw. He saw the Secret Service agents enter first. 2 of them, earpieces, scanning, professional. Then he saw the suit, the walk, the presence that filled a room without effort. Barack Obama stepped onto his stage. The audience member closest to the entrance saw him first. She gasped. Actually gasped like someone had stolen the air from her lungs. Then her neighbor turned. And another. The recognition spread like wildfire through dry brush. Within seconds, the entire studio was standing, not because someone told them to, but because some moments demand you rise. Steve Harvey stood frozen. The video kept playing behind him. Some kid was now stuck on a roof, yelling for help. The juxtaposition was absurd. Obama walked toward center stage, calm, purposeful, like he'd done this 1,000 times. Maybe he had, just not like this. The former president stopped 3 feet from Steve, close enough to shake hands, far enough to create tension. The silence was cathedral deep. Even the crew had stopped moving. Cameras swiveled automatically. Someone in the control room had the presence of mind to cut the video. Now it was just 2 men standing under lights hot enough to melt secrets. Obama smiled, not the political smile, the real one, the one that had convinced millions of people that hope was more than a campaign slogan. "Steve," he said, his voice carried without a microphone, "I need to tell you something, and I need everyone here to witness it." Steve's mouth was desert dry. "Mr. President, Not president anymore," Obama interrupted gently. "Just a citizen. Just someone who's been watching your show for years. Someone who knows what you're going through right now." The audience shifted, confused, curious. The tension was a living thing now, coiling through the studio like smoke through a closed room. "You've been feeling like you're disappearing," Obama continued, his eyes locked onto Steve's. "Like everything you built is slipping away, like maybe you don't matter anymore, like the world has moved on and forgot to tell you where it went." Steve felt his throat constrict. This wasn't possible. How could he know? How could anyone know the thoughts that lived in the darkest corners of his mind at 3 in the morning? "I know," Obama said, "because I felt it too. After leaving office, after the crowd stopped coming, after the phone stopped ringing quite as much. You spend your whole life building towards something, and then one day you realize the thing you built doesn't need you anymore. It's terrifying." The audience was dead silent. Some of them were crying, others looked stunned, like they'd wandered into someone else's therapy session. But nobody moved, nobody breathed too loud. They all sensed they were witnessing something unrehearsable. 3 months ago, Obama said, I was in a hotel room in Chicago. I turned on the TV. Your show was on. You were interviewing some musician I'd never heard of. And I saw it. That look in your eyes. The one you think the cameras don't catch. The one that says you're just going through the motions, waiting for permission to stop. Steve's hands were shaking now. Not slightly, visibly. The cameras would catch it. The internet would dissect it. He didn't care anymore. I wrote you a letter, Obama said. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out an envelope. Plain, white, hand-addressed. I wrote it that night. Never sent it. Thought it would be presumptuous. Who am I to tell Steve Harvey how to feel? But then I kept watching your show, and every week I saw you fading a little more, and I realized something. He held the envelope up. The audience leaned forward collectively. We spend so much time worrying about legacy, about how we'll be remembered, about whether we mattered. But here's what I learned. Your value isn't measured in ratings. It's not counted in awards or applause, or how many people remember your name in 20 years. Obama stepped closer. He placed the envelope in Steve's hand. Your value is in this moment, right now. The fact that you showed up tonight even though you didn't want to. The fact that you smiled for people who needed someone to smile at them. The fact that you kept going when everything in you said to stop. That's not failure, Steve. That's heroism without the cape. Steve looked down at the envelope, his vision blurred, not tears, just overwhelmed circuitry. He opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten. The letter read, Dear Steve, you changed my daughter's lives with your humor during some very dark times in this country. You don't know this, but we watched your show as a family during my presidency. When the weight of the world was crushing me, your laughter reminded me that joy still existed. You saved me more than once without knowing it. So this is me returning the favor. Don't quit. Don't fade. Don't let the numbers define what you're worth. You matter. You've always mattered. You'll always matter. Keep going. Sincerely, Barack. Steve Harvey read it twice, then a third time. The words rearranged something fundamental in his chest. The audience couldn't see what was written, but they could see its effect. They could see a man remembering why he started, why he endured, why he mattered. Obama turned to the audience now. His voice shifted, firmer, presidential without the title. I didn't come here for publicity. I came here because we're living in a time where people feel disposable, where your worth is measured in likes and shares and trending topics, where one bad quarter, one bad review, one bad day can make you question everything you've ever built. He paused, let the words sink in like rain into cracked earth. But I'm here to tell all of you, everyone watching at home, everyone who's ever felt like they're not enough anymore. You are enough. Your struggle is real. Your pain is valid. Your fear of irrelevance doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And the bravest thing you can do is keep showing up anyway. The applause started slowly. One person, then 10. Then the entire audience was on their feet. Not the polite applause of a scheduled show, the kind of ovation that happens when truth walks into a room full of people tired of pretending. Steve looked at Obama, really looked at him. And he saw not a former president, but a man who understood, who had walked through the same fire, who had come out the other side with scars and wisdom and the grace to share both. Thank you, Steve said. His voice cracked. He didn't hide it. You have no idea what this means. I do, Obama replied quietly. That's why I came. They shook hands. Then Obama did something unexpected. He hugged him. A real embrace, the kind that says words are insufficient. The cameras captured it all. The moment would be clipped, shared, analyzed, memed. But none of that mattered in the actual instant it happened. Obama left the same way he came, quietly, efficiently. The Secret Service flanked him, the side door closed, and just like that, he was gone. Like a visitation from a future self who had survived the thing you're currently drowning in. Steve stood alone on stage. The audience was still processing. The crew was frantically checking footage to confirm what they'd witnessed was real. Marcus was probably already fielding calls from network executives who smelled ratings gold, but Steve felt something he hadn't felt in months. Lighter, not fixed, not saved, just reminded of something he'd forgotten, that his value wasn't in the numbers, it was in the showing up, the trying, the refusing to disappear quietly into irrelevance. He looked at the camera. The red light blinked steadily. "We'll be right back," he said. Then he smiled. A real one this time. "If you're still here after that." The commercial break hit. Steve walked off stage. He passed his dressing room, kept walking, found a quiet corner near the prop storage, sat down on a plastic crate, held the letter in both hands, read it again. The handwriting was slightly messy, human, imperfect. His phone buzzed. His wife. "Are you okay? I'm watching. Call me." He called. "Baby," he said when she answered. "I think I'm going to be okay." "I know," she replied. Her voice was soft, certain. "I've always known." They talked for 3 minutes. The show would resume without him for a segment. Let the assistant producers handle it. Let the machinery run itself for once. Right now he needed to remember he was more than the machinery. When he returned to stage, the audience gave him another standing ovation. He didn't deserve it, but he accepted it anyway, because sometimes grace arrives unearned, and you just have to let it happen. The rest of the show was a blur. He interviewed the remaining guests, made jokes, hit his marks, but something had shifted. He wasn't performing survival anymore. He was just being present, and presence, he realized, was its own form of power. After the show wrapped, Marcus found him. "The footage is everywhere," he said. "Twitter's exploding. Every news outlet wants a statement. This is huge, Steve. This is career-resurrecting huge." Steve nodded, but he wasn't thinking about ratings. He was thinking about the letter in his pocket, about the man who had taken time from whatever ex-presidents do to save someone he'd never met from a drowning nobody else could see. "You know what's wild?" Steve said. "I spent 6 months thinking I was disappearing. Turns out I was just transforming, and transformation looks a lot like ending when you're in the middle of it." Marcus stared at him. "That's deep, man. You should tweet that." Steve laughed. Really laughed. "Nah. Some things don't need to be content. Some things just need to be true." He drove home that night with the windows down. The Los Angeles air was cool for once. The city lights blurred past like stars falling sideways. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages, calls, interview requests, the machinery of fame cranking back to life. But Steve didn't check any of it. He just drove, thinking about a letter. About a man who understood that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is remind someone else they matter. About how salvation doesn't always look like rescue. Sometimes it looks like recognition. When he got home, his wife was waiting. She didn't ask for details, just held him while he stood in their kitchen, still wearing the purple suit, still carrying the letter, still processing the fact that he'd been seen. Really seen, by someone who knew what invisible felt like. "I'm not quitting," he said into her shoulder. "I know," she replied, "even if the ratings don't come back, even if this was just a moment, I'm not quitting." "I know." And she did. Because love, real love, is believing in someone's worth even when the world forgets to, even when they forget themselves. Steve Harvey went to bed that night and slept dreamlessly for the first time in 6 months. The letter was on his nightstand. He would frame it eventually, not for display, just for the days when he needed reminding, when the numbers dipped again, when the doubt crept back in, when transformation felt too much like ending. The next morning, the video had 47 million views. News anchors were analyzing it. Psychologists were praising the vulnerability. Twitter was divided between people calling it staged and people crying about authenticity. The machinery was doing what machinery does. But in a house in Los Angeles, Steve Harvey woke up, made coffee, and read a handwritten letter one more time. And he smiled, not for cameras, not for ratings, just because sometimes the thing that saves you is the simple reminder that you're not alone in feeling lost. Barack Obama never publicly commented on the visit. His team released a brief statement about supporting mental wellness in the entertainment industry. Nothing specific, nothing exploitative. Just acknowledgement that the moment happened and mattered. But 6 weeks later, Steve received another envelope. Same handwriting. Inside, a note. Still watching. Still proud. Keep going. B. He kept the second letter too. Started a collection, not of fan mail or accolades, but of reminders that value isn't measured in visibility. That mattering is quieter than we think. That sometimes the most important audience is an audience of one who sees you when you can't see yourself. Steve Harvey's ratings did eventually recover, not because of the Obama moment, though that helped, but because something in him had changed. He stopped performing desperation, started being present, and audiences, it turned out, could tell the difference. Years later, someone would ask him about that night, about what Obama really said, about whether it was planned. And Steve would smile that real smile and say, "He told me I wasn't disappearing. I was just learning to be seen differently." And sometimes that's the only thing standing between you and giving up. Someone who's been where you are, telling you it's survivable. The interview would go viral. People would cry, share stories, talk about their own moments of feeling irrelevant. The machinery would do its thing, but the truth would remain quieter, smaller, more precious than virality. Sometimes salvation is just a letter. Sometimes it's a stranger who isn't really a stranger. Sometimes it's the reminder that your worth was never in question. You just forgot how to see it. And sometimes the best thing a person can do is show up uninvited to remind you that you still matter, even when you're certain you don't, especially then.